Learn.BA, the skills you need to perform at your peak BA capacity.
Should you become a generalist BA? In this video, I'm going to talk about the benefits and the drawbacks of becoming a generalist BA to help you answer that question for your own career. So if you're thinking about which of the three BA archetypes is right for your career, and you're trying to figure out what the benefits and drawbacks are of being a BSA or being a BPA or being a generalist BA, this video is going to answer the questions of the benefits and drawbacks of being a generalist BA for you. So I myself am a generalist BA, but when people typically ask me for advice on whether they should become a generalist BA or not, my advice is usually no. Because most people are not really well equipped to be a generalist BA. And so when I talk about the drawbacks, you'll understand why. But my advice to most people is that you should try to specialize either on the process side in a business domain or in some system. If you want to be a BSA, you should try to specialize as much as you can because of the first major drawback of what a generalist BA brings. And that first major drawback is that your knowledge as a generalist BA resets on every single project. And so every time you start up a new project, especially if you're moving from domain to domain to domain, you're typically the person with the least amount of knowledge on that project when you first start out. And for a lot of people, that can be a very stressful situation. If you don't have the natural predisposition to deal with that type of uncertainty, or if you're not if you're not good at handling the stress that comes with not knowing how things function, and you don't have the strategies in place to try to ramp yourself up very quickly, being a generalist BA is going to be a very, very difficult job for you. Because a lot of times when you're thrown right into a project, the expectation is that you're going to become either the first or the second most knowledgeable person about the subject matter, right? If you're the second, it's usually the subject matter expert that on the project that is the most knowledgeable. But if you're starting off a new project and you're the least knowledgeable person, so the project manager, a lot of the developers, a lot of your business stakeholders, subject matter experts, etc., they all know way more than you when you're first starting out. And if you're planning on moving from project to project and from domain to domain, but you're not really good at ramping yourself up knowledge-wise, being a generalist BA is going to be a very, very stressful job for you. For me personally, it's a bit of a different formula. I like the challenge of learning new domains. And so just personality-wise, when I stay in one business area and one domain, or I'm working with one system for too long, I tend to get a little bit bored and a little bit antsy, and I feel like I need to do something new. So if you're that type of a person, then the generalist BA is probably the perfect role for you, because you're willing to deal with the stress that's going to come with you not knowing anything when you first start out on a project. And the reason why this is coming up is because I'm actually going through that right now. So I've just started up another project, and I know next to nothing about the domain, and I know next to nothing about how the system works. So the system we're working with is SAP FICO. And I've never worked with FICO before. I've worked with the HR component of SAP on my last project, but the financial and controlling piece of SAP is something I know nothing about. And so when I walk into a meeting, oftentimes the conversation is at a very, very deep operational level. So they're talking in the weeds about very specific problems that the business is experiencing. And I need to make sure that I understand exactly what they're saying, because a lot of those details are what the project is going to need to solve. Now, this being my 6th day on the project, I have been working the last 5 or 6 days to ramp myself up as quickly as possible. And I've had certain strategies in place to help me do that. I'll talk about that in the next video or in another video. But if you want to become a generalist BA, you have to know, first of all, that the major drawback is that there's going to be a lot of stress that comes with you not knowing what you're talking about, basically about the subject matter. That paired with the fact that you're expected to be, the most knowledgeable person on the project, can be too much for a lot of people to bear over and over and over again on different projects. If you've ever started a new job before, that stress that you go through in learning the job, you're basically going through a certain amount of that stress on every single project. So if your project lasts 6 months and you start up the next one, it's basically like you're learning almost a totally new job. And so you have to be good at learning that if you want to be a generalist BA. So that's the major drawback. And again, I'll offer you some pointers on how you can ramp yourself up quickly, both systems and domain knowledge wise, if you want to become a generalist BA. I'll talk about that in another video. But now let me talk to you about the benefits of becoming a generalist BA. And the single biggest benefit is that you remain flexible. And so if you're working for one company, you have one employer and you've worked at that company for a long time, the benefits for your employer of you being a generalist BA is that they can kind of drop you into almost any project, and they can have the confidence to know that you're capable of ramping yourself up quickly and to basically get the job done, right? And so that major benefit is a benefit for your employer, obviously, because they have a very flexible analyst that they can basically get to solve any type of problem. And the benefit for you in that is that what you get to do is that you get to experience a lot of different projects, but you see that you're a better fit for a lot of different types of projects. So there's usually never a shortage of work for you if you're a generalist BA, because if you're the type of person who can solve any problem, you can basically get put on any project, right? And so that kind of makes sense, is that there's not really going to be a shortage of work for you with either if you're with your own employer or if you want to do this on a contracting basis. Generalist BAs, as long as you have a good reputation and people know that you can do the work really well, you can basically pick and choose what project you want to work on, because there are so many different projects that you can be eligible for. Again, there are some caveats to that, right? If an employer is used to only hiring very specialized BAs, they're probably not going to see the value of a generalist BA, because they're going to think to themselves, well, this person doesn't know anything about the domain that we're working in, and so what kind of value are they going to actually have for us? Employers who've never hired generalist BAs and don't know that generalist BAs can ramp up like very, very quickly and can start producing the deliverables that they need very quickly, they're not going to see that value. So you're not going to be a good candidate for those types of employers. These employers are typically in areas where you need a lot of very deep and very specific knowledge to be able to deal with it. So you're not going to be a good candidate for those types of jobs. So that the single biggest benefit is that, number one, the pool of jobs that you will be a candidate for is much larger. And if you're the type of person who likes a lot of variety, becoming a specialist is probably not the right job for you. Becoming a generalist is probably the right type of business analysis work that you want to do. If you're anything like me and you like a lot of variety in the type of work that you want to do, and if you tend to feel a little bit stagnant if you've been doing the same thing for a long time, then that's probably a good indicator that becoming a generalist BA is going to be a really good fit for you. Again, you got to have the coping mechanisms, right? You got to have strategies in place to deal with the stress of having to be the person in the room that has the least amount of knowledge. And like within 2 to 3 weeks, you have to start to become the person who has the most amount of knowledge. You have to have really good strategies in place to ramp yourself up really quickly like that if you want to do this work. So it's more difficult, and I think that in my own experience, I think that most people that I've come across who've wanted to become business analysts, becoming a generalist BA hasn't been a good fit for them. And so I think it takes a very specific type of person, and really only you'll know whether you have the drive to actually learn over and over and over again. If you'll know that whether you're a learner or not, versus whether you're somebody who really wants very deep knowledge in one area, and then they don't want to deal with the stability of having to relearn everything on every single project. Only you really know that. And so I hope that understanding the benefits and the drawbacks of becoming a generalist BA can help you to make that decision a little bit more clear. So basically take what you know about yourself, take what you know about the benefits and drawbacks, and try to decide, hey, is the generalist role the right role for me? typically, just salary wise, in most cases, specialists will get paid a little bit higher than generalist BAs will. Now, there are definitely exceptions to that. So if you're a generalist BA that is contracting, or you're a consultant, then in that situation, you can even out the playing field a lot more with specialists, just because of the fact that you're a good fit for so many different types of roles. You can command higher salaries, and because of the flexibility that you have, you can command higher salaries. But if you want to be a full-time permanent employee inside a company, as a generalist BA, your pay is unlikely. It's unlikely that you're going to make the same amount of money as a specialist who really understands, like, the SAP FICO functional consultant is typically going to make more than the generalist BA in the same department, just because of that knowledge that they have. So from a salary perspective, if you're a full-time employee, it doesn't have the benefits. Really, it's you really have to have a good personality type, and you have to really want to be a learner if you want to become a generalist BA. So I hope that helps you. If you haven't already signed up for our free membership at learn.ba, I'm going to suggest that you go ahead and do so. Take the first free lessons. If you're already a business analyst, those lessons are going to be pretty basic for you. But if you're just starting to become a new business analyst and you're trying to get into the field, then those lessons are perfect for you, because they're going to explain to you what a business analyst does, and the type of activities they take part in, and the types of deliverables they're typically expected to produce. So all of that stuff is in the free lessons. So I'm going to suggest you go ahead and sign up for that. In the next video, what I will do is I will talk to you a little bit more about the different strategies you can have if you want to be a generalist BA.